So at the end of the last recap, I said that they had gone back to the village and received their reward. That's not the case. They had actually traveled a different route back, just because that's how they wanted to do. If I recall, Alina the Druid turned into a bird and flew back. They were walking back. I decided they would run into a group of traders from the Asturian Empire. They were slavers. They imprisoned and enslaved people, mostly elves. The background of the Asturian Empire, I can get into this because they know it. The Asturian Empire used to be ruled by elves, hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. The Dragonborn they weren't necessarily slaves, they were just kind of low tier, like, hey, we're better than you, blah, blah, blah. So the dragons overthrew the elves, and the elves became slaves. But they ran into the caravan transporting slaves. Austin's backstory is he was a slave in his youth. So I kind of figured they'd fight, and I was like, okay, they'll fight. It'll be, quick battle, all that. Not the case. They got their butts whooped. And I was like, oh crap, they are going to die. Like, flat out, they're going to die second. I think this was the end of the first session. Or the beginning of the second session. No, it was the end of the first session. But they fought. They lost. And I was like, okay, you don't die. Instead, I was like, okay, you know what? You're going to wake up as... Oh, it's gone. You're going to wake up as slaves. So I had this whole plan right here where they were going to be knocked out in the field and wake up weeks later in the Asturian Empire as slaves with inhibitor collars, basically making them like, hey, you're part of this royal family now. You're going to be their slaves. When the session was about to start, I was like, I don't like this. This is way too railroady. I do not like it. I don't want to use it anymore. So I was like, okay, they're not going to get stuck as slaves. Instead, I'm going to give them the chance to break out. So they're on their way to the Juliet Sea. They wake up, bereft of equipment and supplies, slapped in the back of a cage on the back of a cart, and they were together, I believe. Yeah, they were together. And there were other elves there. One named King, who will come up later as a very big point in the story. But I just said, okay, you guys have to escape, or you're going to make it to the Juliet Sea, and we'll go from there. I had none of this prepared. I literally said, okay, you've been captured. You're in the back of a cart. Figure out what to do. I improv'd, like, oh, they give you a water skin. Turns out the water skin is full of a poison that'll knock you out. So what does Austin do? He swigs from the water skin and spits it into the Dragonborn, whose name was Clandine Manchun. Spits it in her face. She gets pissed, throws up in the cage, and just starts beating him with her fists. I had used, as you can see, the stat block for, it should pop up, a Dragonborn of Tiamat. And the fight with her was going their way until she used her necrotic breath. That brought them down. Like, this should have been an easy fight, but it wasn't, because she used necrotic breath, got really high damage rolls, and then the next turn got it recharged, and she just freaking decimated them. That's how they got captured. But I decided, okay, she hasn't had time to rest. I'm going to say they rested a little bit, not a lot. I don't know if I gave them a long rest or a short rest, but they didn't have their equipment, so I was like, okay, I'll balance it. You guys are back to full health, blah, 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 blah. Heron used spells that did not require material components to help. They freed King, who was a spellcaster, and then Austin I think he just used his fists, and they fought her. It took a little bit of time, but they eventually defeated her, freed the other slaves, and captured the other traders from the Asturian Empire. It was 2 lizard folk, 2 dragonborn, and a kobold. They'll come up later. They play not a pivotal role, but they do play a role later on in the campaign. But they defeated him, freed the slaves, went back to Psycha, and it went from there. And this is where things started to get interesting. I kind of fell into that groove where I was like, okay, now I know what I want to do. At that point, it hit me. I was like, I've got a plan. I've got this whole planned out, not railroad style, but like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. And so far, they're liking it, so